That was when the dot-com crash happened. That was when the planes hit the towers, and it brought me to my knees. This has probably more than 70,000 worth of equity. What if we use the house as collateral?
I'll never forget. This is what drove me actually the opposite direction of corporate America. Like, I was like, I will never do this.
To be successful in whatever realm that is to you, there is just one thing you have to do. You have to create, not to chase your dream, to not follow what you want just because you should conform to what they believe is best for you.
Because I haven't had to wait, because I have the cash sitting and I've just drawn a loan off it. I've had it, as you said.
So I'm going 60 miles an hour down the road at night, and I'm thinking, do I jerk the wheel to the right or do I jerk it to the left?
Chris, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice podcast. I'm so excited to have you on the show, man. I was talking to you pre-recording, but I've been following you for a while, your journey. I know a couple of your team members, and this whole idea and concept of infinite banking, becoming your own bank, is just very exciting to us. So I'm excited for our episode today to talk all things investing, but we are honored to have you on the show, so thank you.
Listen, the honor's all mine. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. So let's dial it back just a little bit. For those who don't know, you are a former pro snowboarder. So I want to talk about that journey and just kind of how you transitioned from a pro athlete to becoming America's #1 money mentor.
There's a lot of steps. The journey, I was a young boy, I watched my first snowboard video. I was probably 12. And just right then and there, I knew it. That's what I want to do. I want to be a pro snowboarder. Now, if anyone knows Buffalo, New York, that's where I live. It's not exactly the mecca for snowboarding. It's not a launching pad for snowboarding. It's literally a nothing for snowboarding outside of the fact that we have decent hills and we have a lot of snow. So my growing up, I didn't have money. I didn't grow up with a family with money or any entrepreneurs in my family. So the snowboarding journey was interesting. It really began at a country club by my school that was in a ravine. So to snowboard and to learn how to jump and hit all the tricks I wanted to learn, I didn't do it the way most snowboarders would, where they'd go to the hill, they'd practice and do that. I did it at a country club that was in a ravine, and I'd build jumps out of the sand traps. And I would literally drill them. I'm so methodical in the way I think. I'd see a trick in a magazine or I'd see a trick in a video. I'd go to the country club. Mom would drop me off. I knew I had like 2 hours before it got dark, and I would run up the hill, strap in, hit it, and I would kind of just in my mind, no, that felt right. It didn't feel right. Run up, do it again and again and again. And then summers sucked. All the pros or the going to be pros, the kids that had money, they would go to Mount Hood. I couldn't afford Mount Hood. So I've got a trampoline. This is like back pre-trampoline snowboarding days. And I taped socks around the edges so it didn't cut my trampoline, and I just bounce all summer long drilling tricks. Winter comes, I'd go out and hit that country club again. I'd hit all those tricks. I'd write them down in school. So like I say that because I want you to understand the method, like the way I did snowboarding is the way I've done everything. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So with snowboarding, it was like a dream come true. Now, the problem with snowboarding is I needed money, which means I needed a job. And that just didn't fit, because once you get a job and you trade hours for dollars, there goes your time freedom. And the time was much needed to pursue the dream I had, which was the snowboarding. So I remember I quit a job because they treated me like complete crap. And I had a plan. And that plan I took home to my mom that night that I quit. And I said, Mom, I quit my job, but there's always a big but. I got this idea. I'm going to create this clothing line in the basement. I'm going to call it Fat Clothing Company, PHAT. I'm going to print shirts with Mr. Mahalski, my art teacher. I'm going to sell them out of my backpack. I'll make enough money where I can continue to do all the things I'm doing. My first business started, it was 1992. I'm just dating myself. You guys look way younger than I am, so just giving you relevance of where we were. And then that turned into the next idea to take this little clothing line, which I was selling, across the East Coast when I would travel to Vermont to go to the snowboard contest, because all the series were in Vermont, New Hampshire. I would stop at all the snowboard shops and I would sell my clothes to all these shops. So I got to know the owners. One of the guys, a shop called Hard Pack, which is no longer around, but I remember I'm in there selling my clothes, and he says to me, his name was Tim. He says, Chris, do you want to go snowboarding? Dumb question to ask a snowboarder. I'm like, yeah, when do you want to go? I'm looking at my watch. I'm like, it's like noon. I know you guys are open till 5. I'm thinking, I don't think I'm going to make it. And he says, well, let's go. I'm like, all right. And I'm looking around. There's no one around. And I just said to him, I said, how are you going to do that? Like, is somebody coming in to relieve you to work the shop? He said, no, I own it. I'm just going to close. We're going to go ride. That seems more fun. I'm like, no way. no freaking way. This is how you guys can do things. You can just close and go snowboarding. This is what I need. So I went home. I started formulating the idea for not just fat clothing, but for fat man board shops, the skateboard snowboard shop that was going to open in the Lockport Mall. Anyway, long story short, almost didn't happen. Everybody told me no. Nobody would give me the money because I needed 70 grand. My mom, who had nothing but the house, she got in the divorce. And for relevance, folks listening, it was a 700 square foot, two bedroom, one bath house. Tiny little thing. So mom, when she saw my dream fading, she's always been my biggest cheerleader. She said, all right, what has to happen? And I said, well, this one bank said this SBA loan thing and they needed collateral. And they said my dirt bike and my baseball cards weren't enough. So I don't know. And she says, well, we have the house. She didn't say she said, well, we have this house. This has probably more than 70,000 worth of equity. What if we use the house as collateral? Now, looking back, like how stupid of a thing that is for mom to put the only thing she had, our house where we lived on the line for a risky deal like a snowboard shop in 94. But that's how it happened. My mom believed in me and put that house on the line. That's how that business opened. So just imagine your biggest dream in life is to be a pro snowboarder. But to get to pro snowboarding, you need money. Now I created the engine, which was this snowboard shop, which literally for a decade or more, I just ran these shops. I lived the most amazing life on the road snowboarding, and I made just enough to make all this happen until the first recession. And that was when the .com crash happened. That was when the planes hit the towers, and it brought me to my knees. And that's what you asked: how did I go from snowboarding into the money business? Well, it wasn't by choice; it was by necessity. That recession, which was the first recession I'd gone through as a business owner, dropped me to my knees and made it so I literally had no other choice. I put my resume out everywhere. My resume sucked because I didn't have much schooling because I was a business owner. The only places that got back to me was Wall Street, if you guys can believe that, right? You've seen the movies, Wall Street, you've seen all of them. It was just like that. I showed up for the interview in the suit, which I've never put a suit on. And it was the big table. I'm at one end, the guy's at the other end, and he's like pitching this firm and why I should work for this firm. And I was just like, dude, I'm in. And I entered Wall Street, and that was 2003 would have been the year right after the recession. I continued running my shops, but I worked on them, not in them anymore. And I was a Wall Street guy. And I did that for 16 years of my life while running my shops, while being a pro snowboarder, and also got into real estate in 2006 only because I had a wealthy client who was in real estate and said, hey, real estate is the path to making money. And that's how I went from snowboarder to money. And then there's a lot more to the story, but let's just pause there.
Yeah, Chris, it's interesting. I feel like there's a couple of paths people take, and they typically don't include the two that you took. So I'll give you just an example. I know people that are like, I'm tired of the money chasing Wall Street thing. I'm going to go live on an island, or I'm going to go to Colorado and I'm going to snowboard, and I'm going to not do that. But you somehow melded both worlds. And that to me is really interesting because this is stereotyping totally, but I imagine a lot of snowboarding or skateboarding people aren't Wall Street people. So what was the transition like for you to go from really just wanting to be a snowboarder to Wall Street, where I imagine there's rules, regulations, climbing the ladder, it seems to me like complete opposite worlds. So how did you figure that out?
Corey, it was, to be honest, it was a nightmare. When I took the job, the firm I worked for, a very traditional, old school, couple 100-year-old company, they had a rule that you had to wear a blue, a black, or a gray suit. Now everybody's heard the story, and so have you. Up to this point, my life existed wearing a toque, a beanie, and a hoodie just about every day that I went to work. Now all of a sudden, I'm clean cut, I'm shaved, I got no hat on, and I got to put a suit on. It didn't work. So here's how I did it. Now, we got to go back a little while, and anyone that's in snowboarding might remember this. There was this company back then that was at the cutting edge of snowboarding, like outerwear and clothing. It was called Volcom, a company that all of you know now because it's a publicly traded giant company. It's everywhere. But back then it was this tiny little company, and Sean White, who was a little Grom, had just joined them, and my hero, Teddy Hawkinson, was like their poster boy. And when these guys would go to the snowboarding events to get their awards, like the Rider of the Year, Volcom this one year made suits in blue, gray, and black for their athletes. Now, I was not an athlete for Volcom, but my buddies were. I said, I need those suits. I don't care what it takes. Get me those suits. So they put me in front of the rep who I knew, Paul. And I said, Paul, I need these suits. He said, they're athlete only. I said, I don't care what it takes. Get me the suits. What do I got to sell? How much of this line do I need to carry? Long story short, he put me on like a rider program, like a rep rider program, not a pro contract, but just a rep rider, which then enabled him to get me these suits. I wore Volcom suits at the early days of that career every single day. And when I started feeling out of my place, I'd look down, I'd see that little stone. That little stone was right, it was like right on the corner of the pants right here. And it brought me back. And I'm like, I'm doing this to fuel my desire and my passion. Dude, that is exactly how I did it. It's all mindset. Everything is mindset. I just needed that shift. So like Superman, I could just go in that phone booth and click, and now I'm back. That's how I did it.
I'll tell you what, Chris, I don't know if I've shared this story. I'll keep it brief on the podcast, but, my first job, everyone's probably heard this company, Northwest Mutual.
Oh yeah.
But my first job, 22, intern. I'll never forget. This is what drove me actually the opposite direction of corporate America. Like I was like, I will never do this. And, I walked into an interview and, you're selling life insurance and like, they're putting all the 22, 23, 24-year-olds just dial and dial and dial. And it was like a hell on earth. But, I remember I didn't know what type of color suit to wear. I had no clue what you were supposed to do. So I was in there, gray suit, black, like checkered, black and white checkered shirt with a like black tie. And the guy sitting across from me who was interviewing me, he goes, "Why did you wear a black tie?" And I said, "I don't know. What should I not be wearing a black tie?" And he goes, "Listen, this is what you need to do. Gray or blue suit, white or blue shirt, power tie," he called it, like a pink or a yellow or whatever, power tie. And from that moment, I said, I want nothing to do with being in your position, because I was like, I can't fathom having a specific like color of what thing I had to wear, like dictate whether or not you wanted to hire me. I was like, what about all the things that I might potentially bring to the table, which was of course nothing at 22. But I'm just saying, I realized that corporate America wasn't for me. So the reason why I asked the question is you're like blending these two worlds of like the corporate versus the snowboarding thing. It sounds like that mindset of looking down was the thing that pushed you through, to the other side. And I want to get to the next stage of your story now. Like, so, what happened next? You were running the company while working in Wall Street. What did Wall Street teach you about business and money? And then we'll get into to what you do today.
Yeah. So before I get into that, there's something very important that I have to say to you, because I want your audience to hear this. And I did not know this back then. I know this to be absolutely positively true today. And it's because of everything I've studied with Napoleon Hill and Earl Nightingale. Success. Okay. We're all chasing success. We all want success. It varies. It looks different. Our perfect days are all different, but we're all chasing success. To be successful in whatever realm that is to you, there is just one thing you have to do. You have to create. But what you just described at Northwestern Mutual, and what I could say a lot about Wall Street that they do a very good job of, is get you to conform to their way of thinking, to their culture, to their image, to what they want you to be. They want to chisel you out of this little piece of clay to make you this robot in their world doing exactly what they say. That is the absolute definition of failure by definition, because you are conforming. And you know what? When you look at the statistics, and they don't lie, if you look at the difference between success and formula, or success and failure, it is a formula of the 5% and the 95%. 95% conform to what other people want you to do, to what other people tell you to do, and literally you conform to other people's failed dreams. Because all those people that put that power tie, for the most part, they abandoned their dream to chase the money or to chase whatever this thing was that they thought they were getting into. And they left aside the most valuable thing, the 5% rule, which is creation. My whole life, every bit of my life has been about creating. Even to this day, I'm a visionary. I create. That's all I do. Good for you for recognizing that. And folks, I hope all of you just listened to what I said. No one in your life, no one, I don't care who it is, should ever be able to tell you not to chase your dream, to not follow what you want, just because you should conform to what they believe is best for you. They don't know what's best for you. Only you know that, because you're the only person with your worthy idea and your dream. So now let's move on to that. So how I was doing this. So when this first happened, I remember it. Business was rough. It was tough at the shops. So I had to hire my employees and I had to move them up. So what I did is I put, his name was Nate. I had a couple guys, but Nate and Kyle and Ryan, I put them in executive positions. Like, they were now the managers of the store and managers of divisions. While I went 9 to 5, or actually it was more like 7 to 7, I went and worked Wall Street. So while I was doing that, they were running the business. One of the most remarkable things happened. Up to that point in my stores, I was the guy. I was in my shop every single day. I could grip a skateboard better than anybody. I could put a snowboard better than anybody. I was the sales guy. Everybody else was a step underneath me. That was mindset. It was just me thinking that way because that's how I thought. Now, I'm not in the shop. So now I was forced to work on the business, work on the bookkeeping, learn all those things that I normally kind of looked at but didn't really care about because I was selling, and work on events and work on, during Christmas, how can we do something cool that makes the mark, and how do we put together a snowboard team and a skateboard team so we're the brand that people want. So I worked on the company. And just so you all know, if I continued to work in that business, I would have been a slave to my business. I probably wouldn't have made it. Fat Man Board Shops today still exists. I sold it back in 2010, but it still lives on as the premier skateboard, snowboard shop. What a legacy, right? But that would have never happened if I didn't work on the business instead of working in the business. I see too many people get into their business and their business becomes a trap. They become a slave to it. And then all of a sudden they hate it. They despise it. And eventually the business fails because they just can't even stand going to work on the thing that was once a dream, now a trap. The only way out of that is to work on the business, and that's what I learned through that thing. So while I was doing it, literally, I was having a ton of fun. My first year in Wall Street, I made $74,000. Now that today doesn't sound like a lot, but back then that was a lot of money. It was more money than I ever made in my life. I never made anything like that with snowboarding. Then the second year I made in the 6 digits, and it just kept climbing north. I became the number 3 in that financial firm in a period of 3 or 4 years. And then I was number 2. I never got to be number 1 because my partner in that firm was with this guy, Mark. He was always number 1, but I was a very close number 2. And the interesting part is the money, and I will say this, here's the bad part. The money did get the best of me. That Wall Street culture did get the best of me. I was still snowboarding and everything else, but you know what? All that stuff just became kind of cumbersome. And I was so focused on making money, to be impressive, to have the fancy Audi, to have all the fancy things, the custom suits and everything else. I literally went deep down that rabbit hole. And I don't know how I emerged from that. I think just one day I just woke up. Sometimes you get a very lucky thing. Maybe it's God, maybe it's, whatever it is, you just wake up and you see things. It's almost like you take the rosy colored glasses off and you're like, holy shit, what is this? It was one day I woke up and I saw that. And I walked into the office that day and I walked past Otto's office. I walked past Ron's office. These guys were 70. They're top producers. But I'm like, why are they still doing this? I hear at the meetings what they make. I hear what their pension is. I hear all these things but they're still here. This can't be what their dream is. This can't be what they want to do. And I'm like, I will never be like Ron or Otto. And I'll never forget, man, it happened so quick. I started saying, all right, maybe I'll go into investment banking. Maybe I'll go to a boutique RIA where I can kind of just work, behind the scenes on investments and managing those assets and not have to deal with this cultural shit. And I did just that. So much so, did it wrong, but I backed a U-Haul up to my office on a Saturday. Nobody ever showed up on a Saturday. And I was loading my desk and everything in. I hadn't told anybody I was leaving. Nobody. It's a complete secret. And then my partner, no idea why, shows up on a Saturday. I was like, whoa, crap. Well, guess I got to tell him. And anyway, that's when I didn't get out of Wall Street at that point. I served notice how I said served 2 years at that boutique RIA until I actually left in 2018. And the only reason I left this was because me and my wife had been working on getting a TV show with HGTV. We're flipping lots of houses back then. This is 2000, see if I can get the time frame right, 2014 till 2018 when the show actually aired, called Risky Builders on HGTV. When that show got approved, as an advisor, and you might know this, Corey, like you have to have OBAs, outside business activities, approved by compliance. So I was so excited. I remember I went right into her office. I said, oh my gosh, that show I've been telling you about, we got it approved. We're going national. We're going to have our own TV show. I'm so excited thinking, hey, I just need that OBA. And she says, Chris, I'm sorry. We can't give you the OBA because you have to make a decision. Are you going to be a financial advisor or are you going to be a TV show star? Because we can't allow you to be a national TV show person while you're a financial advisor. Just like that. I'm like, okay, see ya. Went to Mike, who sat literally the office next to mine. I said, Mike, you want to buy my practice? Put a deal together, sold the practice to him, went on to the TV show. TV show didn't go on. That door slammed, which led me to where I'm at today, to the infinite banking, to a process I was using back then, but not talking about, not teaching, because I was a real estate guy, right? I was going to be a TV show star. That was my future. I burned the frickin' boats to do this TV show. And then the dreaded call from the producer came in that HGTV was bought by Discovery and they were freezing all new shows. Sorry, kid.
Wow.
That was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But at that moment, all I could think about is I'm going 60 miles an hour down the road at night. And I'm thinking, do I jerk the wheel to the right or do I jerk it to the left? As we know, I'm here today, so I didn't. But like literally, that was the biggest blow of my entire life up to that point. And I thought there was no future. None.
So first of all, I really appreciate your transparency in the way that you talk about this, because I know that you're successful today because of your ability to pivot. I just will say I resonate a lot with this because I left my full-time job about a year ago, and the identity shift that I had to make and the ups and downs of the past year have been wild, like mentally. Just like some days are amazing, some days are not. And I've thought like how much people identify with their current state, you know, like you were in this position where you're like, how could I do anything else? Like there's nothing else to do. And now, like looking back, I mean, can you even imagine jerking the wheel right or left? You know, it's like, it's unbelievable. So the mental state of this is really intriguing to me. Talk to me about who you are now, what your business does. And I don't want to skip over the real estate, but I think we'll go back to it just because I'm on this trajectory here. So tell me what you do now, because this shift for people, I think, can give anyone listening saying, hey, if you hate your 9-to-5 or you hate what you're doing currently, like Chris lived 3 lives, 3 different, maybe more. I have 4 lives of business, that is. And I just want people to realize that you can change and you can do something different. If you want to do something different, you're kind of living proof of that. So I'd love to hear about today's status.
This is a wild period of time. And it'll be interesting to look back on this podcast in the future, because I'm in a really crazy period of time in my life. I'm operating 17 different companies, which I know sounds like a lot, but remember, some of them are just holding companies and various things. But the main companies, number one, BYOB, as you can see, like my shirt says, my hat, be your own bank. That's my main company. Basically, we do privatized banking, i.e. Nelson Nash's the infinite banking concept. That's what we teach every single day. But we've grown to be the authority in that space. We are the number one IBC shop in the country, period. No one's even close. And we've done that because we have literally built a culture that is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is solving other people's problems. And in doing so, I have done a very good job of kind of taking everything I've learned on this journey, the snowboarding specifically, the fun in snowboarding and the marketing in snowboarding and all the just cool shit we did in snowboarding. I brought that to the financial world, which was not done during the Wall Street years because you couldn't. But now that I've got my own general agency, my own insurance agency, I pretty much can, and I've got a compliance officer who keeps me on the rails. But I have literally just taken everything I did as a snowboarder and now I just do it for money. I teach people how to take control of their money. Why do I teach that? Simple. I learned that I was never in control. And when I rode these wild roller coasters of finance, like I had money and then I had no money. Then I had money and then I had no money. I couldn't understand why. And it came to me by somebody that I met in my life named Brent. It came to me, it was because I was never in control of the money in the first place. And because I was never in control of the money, I could never determine where it was going to go. It just took me on this wild journey. So when I learned that, I'm like, absolutely. And to take control was simple. It was just do what a bank does, mimic what a bank does, become the bank. So I took it really serious. When I first started in it, that's all I did. And now, like I said, what started as just me solving my own problem by learning this one little thing that I learned from an incredibly wealthy individual in Utah who was lending me money on my real estate deals. I just said, hey, how do you lend all this money? And he tells me, I have my own private bank. And I thought, dude's got a bank. I'm like, I need to be like this. I need my own bank. But then he told me how it worked. And I'm like, no way, this is a scam. There's nothing in the world that operates like that. And then he told me, yes, there is. And he said, you know what it is? It's whole life insurance. It's specially designed whole life. And I just didn't believe him, but I came to believe him because mathematically, there was nothing that pointed to anywhere else other than this actually works. So I took that and I started using it in my life. Then I started having people come out to my RIAs because I had a RIA that we'd bring. We had 80 to 100 people every single month. I'd bring this guy Brent out to speak to my audience to teach him what he taught me. And then all of a sudden, I started being the teacher. And I started being the one doing the events and teaching this thing. And that's what got me to grow this thing. But just like every other business, and you guys are no different. You've gone through this. You get to a certain point where you're working in your business and all of a sudden you're out of time. I was on the phone every single day from 8 a.m. till 9 at night. I had no life. I was making a ton of money, but I had no life. And then literally I came to that breaking point where like something's got to give. So I started building a team of people that took those calls for me. It was the hardest thing, just as hard as when I went from snowboarding to Wall Street, but just in a different way. I loved talking to the clients. I loved solving their problems. How could anyone do this better? Well, lo and behold, when I trained people how I did what I did, they did do it better than me. And then I just built that. And I started then focusing on the marketing engine. And I built an entire marketing company. Not that we offer marketing to anyone but ourselves. We've gotten really good. And I got really lucky, guys. Back after COVID, I don't know why or how this happened, but I was watching YouTube a lot. But for some reason, I saw YouTube different than almost everybody else. YouTube to everybody else was like, oh, I'm going to go there and watch a video. Oh, I'm going to learn how to do this. Oh, it's a cool platform. But to me, I saw what YouTube was behind the scenes. I'm like, YouTube is HBO, man. I used to watch HBO, and HBO would air shows from Paramount and Pixar and all these other producers. I'm like, I'm the producer of my own reality. And YouTube is just HBO. If I have a hit, they're going to air it to more people. They're going to show it to more people. And I'm just going to hook onto this bandwagon. And that's what I've done. And that's been my greatest attribute is we have literally doubled down on videos. And today I've got 1,300 videos on YouTube. We make one video every single day. And they are highly produced. We're using VO and all sorts of AI stuff to make just the wildest, crazy thing. I just interviewed Bigfoot and told Bigfoot how to build his own private banking system so he could build a cabin that he's going to Airbnb to his buddies out in the woods.
Wow.
Sounds crazy, right?
That's ever chatted with Bigfoot. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know what? I just did Yetis. It's not out yet. And then next is Nessie, Loch Ness Monster. So, who would have ever thought I could teach infinite banking to the Loch Ness Monster? Technology's evolved to that. Now, you guys are thinking I'm crazy. So let me go one step further. So BYOB also, as time went by, this is over the course of 7 years, I started building up a very substantial amount of money. It happened very slowly, folks. I didn't just have a bunch of money. I just did it bit by bit. I relied on compounding interest and uninterrupted compounding. And as I built this thing up, I all of a sudden one day when I sold off my real estate after COVID, I said, you know what? Somebody said to me once, when I was deep in real estate, said, Chris, the ultimate in real estate is being the bank. And now I was going to be the bank. So I wanted to start lending because everybody I'd always borrowed money from made more money than I did. So I just was like, I'm going to start lending. But there was no easy way for me to lend money. Like I would go to RIAs, I'd get on podcasts, I'd be like, hey, I'm a lender, I've got money. And people would literally put on a piece of paper, they'd write an address. And I'm like, what is this? They're like, well, you said you wanted to lend. Can you lend money on this address? I'm like, are you effing crazy? Like, have you ever walked into a bank with a piece of paper with an address on it and said, hey, lend me money? No, I don't think so. So I started saying, all right, I got to teach people. If this is how it works, I just got to show people the path. I wrote my first book, Private Money Guide. And then from there, I got the idea that I needed to create the community, a website that was like a dating site. You guys ever use dating sites?
Yeah, like Hinge or something like that back in the day, probably like 8 years ago, 7 years ago. Yeah.
I don't know, like Match.com. Ryan's like, nope.
Not like the sites, but the apps. Yeah.
Ryan, you married?
Yeah, sorry. I'm married and I have a kid, but my wife and I have been together for like 13 years. So I actually got to miss the dating sites and the apps actually.
I saw it when I said that. You're like, nope, never done that. But then Corey's like, yeah, maybe I used one or two of those.
Oh yeah, I was all over them, but it was just years ago.
But like, right, think about that, right? Someday in the past, some guy or gal sat down and said, you know what? This dating thing sucks. There's got to be an easier way to bring guys and girls together. And they created the first dating site. Just imagine that idea. I was that guy that sat down at a bar one day with a napkin and I said, there's got to be an easier way. There's got to be a place where people with money can meet people that need money for real estate, like a dating site for money. I created it. PrivateMoneyClub.com. I created that a long time ago. There's over 9,000 members, hundreds of millions in deal flow has happened. And today it's taking a crazy turn right now. We are literally on the brink, and I don't want to give too much out there, on the brink of literally creating the first true bank, and I mean real bank, but a real bank that operates in the infinite banking world, where when you make deposits into your bank, they're not backed by the Fed. They're backed by cash value life insurance. They're backed by insurance companies and their reserves, which by all intents and purposes, this is going to be very complicated to get done, but I don't want to get into the details. It's possible because of what just happened in the Genius Act that just passed. So you got to understand blockchain. You got to understand AI for sure. And you got to understand, how stable coins operate. So that world will exist in the future. So that's what we're doing. But if you think about it, like BYOB, it's the engine, right? You make deposits into your own private banking system, to which you use for the things you use a regular bank for: paying down debt, buying cars, buying equipment, buying real estate, investing in deal flow. Yeah, that's what you do today. Well, we do the same thing, but you just do it instead of using a bank, which is putting the bank in control of your money. We do it with an insurance company, a giant mutually owned insurance company, and a specially designed whole life. It's basically the same thing, just different rules. So we do all the same things. But then I created the engine on the back end, call it a product, right? It's a loan. It's a loan mechanism, and that's PMC, a place where people can move money and lend it, or people can borrow money. So all I've done is literally, without knowing it, I've created a bank. And all the aspects of that bank have been created. Now we're creating the technology, which is called the Vault, which is single-handedly going to disrupt the entire infinite banking space, because it is the most revolutionary technology to date ever built for privatized banking. And it's going to change everything. And it's going to allow us to literally take infinite banking from here and bring it to the masses, because of technology, because of AI, and because of integration with the insurance companies' technology systems that will allow all this to exist in one place. So just imagine this, just bring it all full circle here. Imagine, you've got, let's just say you got $100,000. I'm just going to use this because it's round math. It could put any number you want, folks. You got $100,000, but it's not in the bank. It's in your own private banking system, to which, where it sits, if it does nothing, it earns guaranteed interest at a rate far in excess of what a bank would pay you. Plus you get dividends every year, and that money grows tax-free. But then all of a sudden, like, Ryan, I'm going to pick on you just because you've been a little bit quiet. Ryan has this amazing deal that he's wholesaling, $100,000. You want to buy this deal. You're going to rehab it. You're going to flip it. So you take from your bank a loan. Okay. You take that loan and you pay Ryan the $100,000 for this property. You now have an asset that you bought. But let's just remember, your money, that $100,000 was sitting in a specially designed and engineered whole life, where it was earning a higher interest rate, guaranteed, plus dividends in a tax-free environment, protected from judgments and liens. And if you died, it's self-completing because of the death benefit. But then when you wanted the $100,000 to pay Ryan, you just went to the insurance company, i.e. your private banking system, and the insurance company loaned you $100,000, okay, which is collateralized by the $100,000 you had sitting in your account. But your $100,000 is still in the account. Even though Ryan's got $100,000 in his hands, he smiles. So smile, Ryan. You're happy you got $100,000 right now. He made $40,000 in a wholesale fee. That'll really put a smile on his face. So he's psyched. But I still got my $100,000 sitting in the policy, earning guaranteed interest and dividends uninterrupted. How's that possible? It's possible because the insurance company promised me a death benefit while I'm living. Death benefit when I die. So while I'm living, there's nothing that the insurance company doesn't, or there's nothing in that contract saying that I can't use that money while I'm living. So what the insurance company effectively does is loans me part of my death benefit up to the $100,000 I have in cash value. That's the collateral. So for the insurance company, it's risk-free. I got $100,000 in cash value, of which doesn't matter how much of that is interest and dividends, but I got $100,000. That's collateralizing this loan the insurance company gave me, which is literally them giving me $100,000 of my death benefit. So now I've got $100,000 growing, and now I've got this property I just bought from Ryan, which I'm going to make money on. The only thing that's got to be accounted for in there is that the insurance company is going to charge me simple interest on that loan. So let's call it 525, which is about accurate for where most of the carriers are today. They're charging me 5.25%. Is there a bank, guys, that I can go to today, 2025? I believe we're in August. I almost said October. We're August 2025. Is there a bank out there that would give me a loan with no questions asked, give me the money in 36 hours, and only charge me 5.25% on that?
No, we just got a business line of credit, and we thought the terms were great, and it was like 8.5 or 9.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you'd say if you found a bank that would give you 5.25 and no questions, you'd be ahead of the game, right?
I would, and I'm going to let Ryan jump in here because he knows a lot more about this infinite banking than I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been quiet. The line.
You've been waiting for this part,
dude. Yeah, I'm ready. I do the infinite banking on our. Well, it's a personal side. It's not through the business at all. But yeah, I've stacked up a ton. I actually had it's like a wealth mentor at one point, right? He was a real estate investor, very well off. I was wondering how he was cycling deal after deal after deal. He was in his 50s at this time, and he's like, dude, you need to, he didn't call it infinite banking. He didn't even know how to explain it really. He's like, you just need to meet with my financial planner and have him talk through this with you. By the way, I was 25, and this is about 10 years ago, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but the fact that I'm even allowed to be in the room with these gentlemen is great. The money manager at the time only took people who had made like 500 grand or more, working with like the uber wealthy. And he's like, listen, you're his little apprentice or whatever. He's treating you like a son. I'll help you out. And so basically, he helped me manage my money, but then introduced me to this infinite banking, if you will, become your own bank. That's what he called it. And I've stacked up over the last 5-10 years, all this cash value. Now, hey, are my plans perfect? I don't know, but I know that I've been able to get into multiple real estate deals and other investment opportunities because I haven't had to wait, because I have the cash sitting and I've just drawn a loan off it. I've had it, as you said, 36 hours. Best part is if I'm taking I don't have the exact science here and the exact numbers, but I remember taking a loan of 30 grand and I'm paying like $1,500 a year on it. I'm like, dude, that's nothing. Mm-hmm. It was one of the most incredible tools ever. So it's allowed me to get into a number of projects and, stacking doors, if you will, on our real estate side. So just to give you a real life example, one of the reasons why we're so excited to have you on the show is like, I'm living this, man. So I fully believe
Ryan, I love that, man. Thank you. And, it's funny when you took those loans, we just said 5.25, which is about on par with where insurance companies are today. And then you guys said you just took a loan from a bank at, I can remember 7 or 8%.
Yeah, 8%.
You got to understand, insurance companies don't base the loan interest rate on the same thing a bank does. Bank uses prime. Insurance companies use the bond LIBOR index and a variation of those, which is usually much lower than prime and also much more stable. So yes, and some of you are like, but wait a second, Chris and Ryan, if you had 100 grand and you use that 100 grand to buy a deal, but now you got to pay 5.25, that's not a good deal. Why would you do that? Because I hadn't finished that. I haven't closed that gap. Because a lot of your audience is probably thinking, I would never pay 5.25 to use my own money. That's stupid. But what they don't know is how much am I earning on my cash value sitting there in dividends and interest? Well, if I wanted to be a bank, first off, let's just talk about how a bank works, right? We got to mimic a bank. If you give a bank a deposit, let's say you put it into a high yield savings. What are you getting? 3% today, give or take 3, maybe 4 at best. And that's a high yield savings account. So now you're making 3 or 4 in the bank. Okay. Well, I can tell you right now, I'm making north of 5%. Every company we deal with is far north of 5%. Some are over 6 in interest and dividends, uninterrupted, tax-free. So you in your bank account to earn even 5.5%, you'd have to earn way more. You'd have to earn like almost 7% taxed to get the same thing I'm getting tax-free. So right there, I'm better off. But let's go back to how a bank works. Bank pays you 3 or 4. You just heard them tell you how much the bank charges. You can't go to the bank and get a loan for less than what their high yield savings paying. If your high yield savings paying 4, you're going to borrow it at least 5 or north of 5. Why? Well, the bank wants to make the magic spread. That's how banks operate, folks. It's not very complicated. Forget about fractional reserve banking. Let's just talk banks. They give you a certain interest rate on your money. Most of you are getting 0. I'm trying to be nice here. They give you either 0 to 4% on your money. Then they lend your money out, usually back to you for more. They make a spread. So now let's go back to our private banking system that me and Ryan are talking about. Bank, or the insurance company is going to charge us 5.25 to borrow our own money, effectively, if you want to call it that. But our money never leaves the account. And in the account, our money is earning north of 5%. Okay. In some cases, our highest is 6.4. So indeed, I am actually making the same spread. I am doing what a bank did. But here's the best part. if you understand math and compounding interest, what you would understand is that cash value this year at 100, next year is going to be more than 100. And it's going to be compounding in a higher amount because it's uninterrupted. It just keeps going. While at the same time, I got to use the money. There's nowhere on earth, folks, nowhere on earth that you can do that. Maybe a margin account on your stocks, but that's not a guarantee. That's an up, down. And you might get a margin call and then game over. Okay. So this is the only place this works. This is why, like you said, Ryan, these guys, these wealthy guys, they know about this because it's always been only available to the wealthy. Now, let me close this circle because let's just kind of go over this, folks. I want you to just think about this. I'm going to make this so simple, 5th grade level. You put money into a different place. Doesn't matter that it's a whole life. Erase that. Where you got a better interest rate, tax-free, and protected against judgments and liens. And oh, by the way, if you died, it's self-completing. Your family members get more than what you had in there. Cool. I'll take that, right? Then you want to use that money to make more money. Everybody wants to use their current money to make more money. That's smart, right? So now we take money from the account to go invest in something that we know, like, and understand that we're going to make more money in. Okay. But we didn't use our money. We use somebody else's money, which is kind of what we've been taught. Hey, let's, Robert Kiyosaki, like, use smart money, right? Go out and borrow money, but that's good loans. Well, you're doing that. You're borrowing from your own bank, the greatest place you can borrow money from, and you're making a spread still. But now you got this property that I just bought from Ryan. Let's say I flip that property and I make 15% on that. Okay. Now here's the most important thing. Think of a circle. Money started on the left and your private bank moved over to the right, which is this property. We now have money earning twice. We got the money earning in the policy and we got the money that we're going to make on the house. We're making money twice on the same dollar. Brilliant idea. But you see, if you owned a bank, you would never ever steal from your bank because I don't think you guys ever would steal from your bank. You'd go to jail. You guys would never not make payments back to the bank the way that it's promised because then you'd be in foreclosure and bad things would happen. So now that we bought this house and we sold it and we made 15%, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the money that we made, and instead of putting it in Bank of America or Chase or any other bank, we're going to take that money, we're going to put it back into our bank. Because that only makes sense. It's our bank. Why would I give my money to anyone else's bank? So I put all the money back in my bank, repaying the loan to the insurance company, and now the money's ready to deploy again for the second time. And I just keep doing that over and over. And if somebody's in debt, which most people are by statistics, I'm going to start there. I'm never going to invest in anything until my debts are paid down, especially credit cards. So what if I just took money in the policy, I took loans from the policy, and I started paying debt down? Let's just use snowball, lowest balance to highest. Now, when I pay the credit card off, if I owed Visa $10,000 and I was paying them $1,000 a month, let's say I pay Visa off using a loan from my bank. Took 10 grand from the policy, paid off Visa. I owe Visa nothing anymore. But I used to pay Visa $1,000. And Visa charged me 25%, which was where the $1,000 came from. Everybody tracking? Now, all I'm going to do is I'm used to writing a $1,000 check every month to Visa. I'm going to change the name on the check. I'm going to change the bill pay name. It's no longer going to say Visa. It's going to say Chris Naugle. And now bill pay, or me, or however you want to do it, is going to pay that $1,000 a month back over here to my policy, my private banking. So now what I'm doing is I'm now repaying that $10,000 loan, meaning the insurance company, which charges me interest one time a year. So I literally got an not interest free, but I don't have any payments for 12 months. Okay. So I got 12 months to repay that loan down. And in 12 months, I take $1,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. And I repay that down. But I only borrowed 10. So in less than a year, I paid the $10,000 back. How much did the insurance company charge me? Well, they charged me 5.25 on a declining balance, which if I figured the APR on that over the course of a year would probably have been like 2%, not 5.25. Math, folks. Every single thing I do is mathematics. That's it. Math doesn't lie. It's the only true certain in life. That's why Elon Musk and all these people putting rockets out in space into Mars, it's all math. It's all math. The thrust, the angle, the trajectory, it's all mathematics. Well, money is math. And infinite banking to this point has been conceptual based on math. I built software to mathematically prove every scenario in the infinite banking world with the vault. And that's exactly what it is. It's just a giant circle, folks. All you're going to do is keep your money moving around the circle. Round and round we go. It's like Monopoly. Every time you pass go, which is your policy anniversary, you get paid a dividend. You collect your money. That's all I do. And then I just found cool ways to do cool things with this private banking system. And that's exactly what I do every single day.
You have been the best person to explain this to us. We've had like 2 other gentlemen on the show, 2 or 3, and they've been like
they overcomplicate it.
It's overcomplicated. And I think that was a perfect example. Paying down debt was an amazing, just like average every single day someone can do this easily, right? And that's like
Correct.
the highest interest debt to nail down first. Then we talk about getting into real estate investing. You can buy other things. You know, people talk about, hey, if you cut a check for your kid to go to college, right? Whatever it is, you have the cash that's continually working. Now, we typically use this for assets, right? We're not just to pay things off. It's like, how can I increase that spread, make more dough, pay it back? Can you talk to me? You know, it's going to be a little bit layered for people that maybe, you know, are newer to this, but I'm just curious on how you structure the policies because, and I know this is arbitrary and it's not one size fits all, but I just want to talk about this because there's so many different life insurance companies out there. Like I know Guardian, Northwest Mutual, there's so many, right? But the way the policy is created within the companies, right, is also a different thing. Some are very front loaded, some are back loaded. Do you guys do anything specific to ensure a heavy upfront cash value immediately? Because I know for me, it took a couple of years to get to a substantial amount.
Yes, every single policy design we do is upfront, high early cash flow. It's the only way we do them. Now, here's an interesting thing. This is where people, again, make this overcomplicated. And I'm going to go back to my snowboarding years. In my snowboarding years, I was very fortunate to have watched the upcoming of companies like Burton and Capita and all the companies that are household names. But one thing Burton did better than any other company, in their brochures, they created ways for the average person who doesn't know what kind of board to buy for the conditions they're going to do to figure out exactly what board I should ride, or at least what two boards I should pick from. In every catalog, they did this. Hawka Shoes does this today. You don't know what kind of Hawka shoe? Go on their website, fill out their profile, tell them what it is you want, your needs, your goals, and at the end, it will recommend one, maybe two shoes that are going to work for you out of their 150 shoe lineup. Burton Snowboards did that for snowboards, and they're even better now. It's all online. You just go in and you just put your parameters in. I want a board that's going to ride the park really well, but on a POW day, I want to be able to take it in the backcountry. I want a board that's versatile. I want it affordable. Whatever your needs and goals are. You don't need to know, oh, I want a camber, or I want a reverse camber, or I want, you know, a super fly core 2, or I want carbon. You don't need to know any of that. You just tell Burton what you want, what your goals are, what your desires are from this thing, this product. And then they find a way with a system and an algorithm to say, these are the 2 or 3 boards that would work for what you want. Now you got to just pick. That one's graphics way better than that one. I like that one. This one's less money. And you pick it. So I'm not done with this, but the way we design a policy is not based on anything other than what the client tells us on the call that they want and need. They want to pay off debt. They want, you know, whatever their things are. They want a lot of flexibility to be able to put, you know, this much premium in, but if things get rough, we can drop it down to this. We want, you know, whatever it is they want. They tell us that. I have created a matrix of 5 different templated designs. Each design, each template is designed for a specific use case that's going to be more efficient. Now, the only way we've been able to do this is because we have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of clients. And every month we're doing hundreds of clients more. So we've learned this by just sheerly doing it. And we've made lots of mistakes, but now we know what a client tells us what they want, how we're going to design the policy. And we've even named them. Like one is called the Nelly, not off the Loch Ness, but off Nelson Nash. One is called the Slayer. One is called the Deceiver. One is called the Beast. So we've got, and then not even going to go into the other one. The Globetrotter is the other one, but we might change that name. So we've named them all because it's fun, right? Oh man, I just did this profile and it said the policy design I need is the Globetrotter. And maybe I could use the Deceiver if I did a dump in of money, because that's a huge thing. There's several factors that come into design, and it's not your opinion that matters. It's just fact. If you're going to dump a big deposit in up front, there are certain designs that are going to work far more efficiently to give you the most cash value upfront. And what we're always targeting is between 80 and 90+% immediately accessible in the first year. And all the policies we design, unlike what you said, Ryan, you have access to your cash value immediately in the first 30 days. No ifs, no ands, or buts. That's how it is. It's just how much do you have access to? Is it 60, 70, 80, or are we really redlined and do we have 90%? Okay. It's all in the design and the dump in, and it's all also age-based. So that's how I've done it, guys. I took all the stupid, monotonous shit out of it, and I just said, hey, it's not about the policy design. It's not about what we think. It's about mathematics and what the client's problem is that they want to solve. And once we know that, we know how to design it to solve that problem the fastest. And now we can cheat, because now I can input that into the system. I could take 2 designs. Ryan, you could give me your design, and I could take one of ours. I could upload them into the vault, and I could pick each one, and I could run an exact scenario. I want to buy this multifamily property. I want to know which policy design is going to be the best. All right, I do Ryan's. Great. Shows me the metrics and the math behind that. Great. Now I just click a button. I take off Ryan's policy. I click a button on this policy design. And now I can see the mathematics. Oh, wow, that one's more efficient because of X, Y, and Z. See, we don't need to guess anymore. But it's taken us, I don't know. I mean, Nelson launched in 98, 99. It's taken us from then to today, 2025, to figure out how to get here. So if we figured out how to mathematically prove all this today, what does the next 5 years look like with AI? Holy crap, I could tell you, but we don't have enough time. It is unfreaking real what we're about to do.
Love it. Man, this is great.
This is fun, man. Thanks, guys.
I feel like I could talk to you all day about this. And here's the thing. I've been talked to my ear off by a lot of people about infinite banking, including one of my best friends, Ryan. And I just haven't done it. It's not something that I've got into. I'm not suggesting that I wouldn't. I think having this conversation with you, I've truly never actually like fully understood how it works. And it's something that I'm definitely going to take a look at. I would love to chat with you longer. I respect your time, though. I know you have something coming up at the top of the hour. So last question for me. And I'm wondering why you think it is that certain people feel like this is I'm using air quotes, a scam. Like what is it that is out there in the marketplace that people have the notion that this is true, even though, after talking to you even just for an hour, I can tell that you're genuine and it clearly isn't. But just why do you think people think that?
It's easy. And I can tell you exactly why people think it's a scam, because other people have told them, hey, we do this thing, infinite banking. We're going to build this policy, and they get this product, right? They're sold a product. Okay. Anything that we just talked about today was a process. I think I mentioned a product maybe 2 or 3 times, just so you knew what that machine was that we were using. Everything else was just a process, right? It was just a way to move money. Everybody else wants to sell you a product. And here's the unique thing. Remember all those different designs? Well, some of those designs can pay you more of a commission than others. And it's really just in how much you put to base, in other words, the base death benefit versus the paid up additions rider. I'm getting complicated, but we don't need to understand that. Just know that one pays you significantly less, one pays you significantly more. So if you're an agent out there struggling and really trying to make this work, and you hear about this infinite banking thing, and you're like, hey, I can do that for my clients. You don't learn how it really works. You go to a client, you say, hey, yeah, we do infinite banking. They design a policy. And then when the client gets that policy, they're like, okay, well, this is the infinite banking. Great. I'm going to use this. I don't have any cash value for the first year. The second year, I have a little bit. And the third year, I have a little bit more, but I guess that's just what infinite banking is. Then that client turns on a video and watches this Chris Naugle guy's video where he shows in the first 30 days, somebody taking out 90% of their cash value. And he's like, what? What the heck? Like, what
I got scammed or whatever. Yeah.
I got scammed. Yeah. This is a sham. This isn't real. And now all of a sudden, because their perception was not what they just saw, they think that this is all a scam. That's exactly why. It is a very unique industry. It is not an industry that is come down to like where there's standards of operating, and they're trying to do that. But there is a lot of people out there just saying they do infinite banking and they don't. It's garbage that they're pushing. There's a lot of IUL people saying, hey, we sell IULs, use them for the infinite banking. It doesn't even work. It's actually forbidden to do that with the IBC practitioners group, which I'm a member of. It's just, that's why. And there's no right or wrong answer to it. There's just bad people. They're not even bad people. There's just people not doing it the right way for your goal. And remember back to the beginning. In life, you got to decide, and everybody's going to come to this crossroads in life. Are you doing things to solve your problem, or are you doing things to solve somebody else's problem? Every person that's doing things to solve their own problem is stuck where they're at. They're miserable. They're trying to get ahead, but they can't. They think everything's against them. And then there's people that all they do is go out there and solve other people's problems every single day. And that's just their model. That's their ethics, just all they know. And guess what they keep doing? Elevating their life, elevating their life, elevating their life. And then when someone looks at both these two people from the outside, they're like, that person's lucky. Luck doesn't exist. There is no such thing as luck. One person understands the universal law that every one of us have to abide to. And you have to decide, are you going to give or are you going to get? Because you must give first before you ever get. Your life, your wealth, your success in life will be a direct reflection of what you put out, of what you give out there to anybody, everything, animals, insects, bugs, people, whatever. If you're out there doing good every single day because that's who you are, you will be successful because you keep giving. and giving and giving. Why is it that people like Warren Buffett give their entire fortune away? And that is absolutely positively 1000% true. He gave everything away, but yet he's still one of the wealthiest people on earth. It's because of the universal law. The law of oh my God, I know.
Reciprocity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That, folks, I swear to God, I sit here at 48 years old, massively successful, multimillionaire. Like, I don't need to brag about what I have. The only reason I sit here being able to say that is because I have learned that if I just give every day, if I just solve other people's problems every day, like, it's inevitable.
I love it, man. I'll tell you what. One of the things I've started to do recently, and I know you have to go here, but
that's all right, dude. This has been great.
I've taken that to heart. The number one thing that I do anytime I meet somebody new, once I learn that they're competent and a good person, I immediately make it my number one priority to refer somebody to them, to their business. And it doesn't always come back to me. It may or may not, but this just happened twice in the past couple of weeks where I met somebody who was a lender, and then I said, okay, I got to connect this person who needs lending to that person. And I'm putting it out there as into the goodwill of the world for the rule of reciprocity. And, I'm hoping I'm not doing it for my own benefit. I'm trying to do it and just forget about it. And hopefully that those things come back. But I find that the more that you do that and just put it out there and help people, you're absolutely right. And I think that's, you taught me a lot, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Man.
Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
I want to echo your point. Like I truly have learned this, and maybe it's because we've gotten away out of our 20s into our 30s. Like you were paid in proportion to the problems you solve for other people. And I know that's exactly what you said, just shortened, but when you do focus on you, money repels. And but it overflows when you're doing things for other people. I just want to say this, Chris, like once again, echoing here, you explained this concept of infinite banking and becoming your own bank so eloquently, but you've kept it cool. And I think that's what people, they feel like buttoned up, white collar. When I hear infinite banking, I feel like an advisor's only selling me into this product because they're taking money out of my pocket. You're making this make a lot of sense to the average person to go do the things they want to do, make more money with their money, live more experiences, and just have this idea of freedom. So I just want to give you kudos because I've looked at all of your information on YouTube, which is like an HBO channel. I love it. And then just your education platform too, for people, it's an abundance of free material, it eventually all leads back to you, but that's the point, to get it done the right way. So I just wanted to as we wrap, can you let us know the window into your business and how people can get in touch, or potentially have you look at their current plan that they have, get it audited, the best way for people just to say, hey, Chris is awesome, I'm into this, how do I proceed forward?
Yeah, it's so easy. I mean, listen, if people want to watch videos, it's at the Chris Naugle, all my social channels. But if you really want to sit down and talk to us, just go to my website, chrisnaugle.com, or beyourownbanker.com. And then just scroll down. And here's the thing, like you just said this, Ryan, like please try to go out there and find a coaching program or something where you have to pay me to do something outside of free plus shipping on the books. You got to pay for the shipping. You can't. Like, I give it all away. I just do. Like, people are like, hey, do you coach people? No, I give all my best stuff away for free. So chrisnaugle.com or beyourownbanker.com. And then a couple swipes down, you'll see we do 6 webinars every single week, live, no evergreen. Okay. I got free stuff all over the place. You want to book a call? Easy. Just book a call. Just pick a time that works, and you'll be on the phone with somebody in a day if you want, tonight if you want. Like, we have tons of availability to call. So that's how we do it. And here's where it all came from. Let me go back to the origin, because you brought it up, Ryan, and I'll kind of finish with this. There was this really, really successful mentor. And back when I was broke, I couldn't afford to go to his events or everything else. But one day my wife said, Chris, you have to go to this event. He's doing it at his house. It's $5,000. I'm like, I don't have $5,000. She said, put it on your credit card. I'm like, I'll be in debt. Like, I don't want to do that. But I did. And I went out there, and I remember I walked to his house. I couldn't stay at the hotel where everybody else was because it was too much. I stayed at this dump, like down by the water, and I took an Uber up, actually a taxi back then. And I went up there, and I remember I got to the place, and I saw, like, I can't remember her name, but she's a famous model. And then I saw this guy who I knew who he was, and he happened to be the founder of Uggs. Then another guy, the founder of Pictionary, and then the founder of Make-A-Wish. And I mean, like, I'm amongst greats. And I felt this freaking big. So day 2 of this event, I go up to Greg, the guy who put this event on. I just got him in the corner, and I said, Greg, I need you to give me the best advice you can give anyone. Puts his hand on my shoulder, leans into me. He's got this smile, and he said, I'm going to give you the best advice I would give anyone. And I'm like, yes, this is what I paid for. He leans closer and he says, give your best stuff away for free. And he just comes back. And I have a photo of this very moment where he like lets go of me. He's smiling. Scott Duffy next to him is smiling. And then there's me. And I don't have a smile. I'm like, you son of a bitch. $5,000 to tell me to give my best stuff away for free. I'm going to go in the bathroom and puke and then cry myself to sleep tonight. Like, that's what you got. But literally, like, think about that moment. From that moment on, that is all I've done. I took him seriously, and that's exactly what I've done. So folks, like, there's a Will Rogers quote I'm going to end with. The biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think that they know that just ain't so. The infinite banking concept. A lot of people say it's a scam. It's not real. It's all blah. It's foo-foo. It's blah, blah, blah. The biggest problem in America is not what you don't know. It's what you think you know that just ain't so. Be very careful who you take advice from. Be very careful who you are guided by, and always follow your dreams and your dreams only. That's the best I got, man.
It's a mic drop, man. I will say I'm already ready for round 2 here. I know we gotta cut it short, but you said it best. Russell Brunson has said it. Hormozi said it. Give all your best stuff away for free, and you will attract so many more clients, but also just the right people in your life. Corey, I don't know if I missed anything else, but Chris, I just personally, from me, I'll let Corey go. Thank you, man. This is one of my favorite episodes to date. I'm finding myself saying this as we like elevate in the game here, but you just know your stuff. I love how you exited the corporate world. You're super cool, like literally a cool, educated human being. That these are the type of people we want to have on the podcast. I'm just glad we got to know you, got to meet you, and keep kicking ass, man, because this was a genuine pleasure from me.
Absolutely. This was such a blast. Thanks, guys. This will go down as probably one of my favorite podcasts ever. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Love it, man.